Krissy is a whoops. Okay. Krissy Loveman is a trauma-informed life coach, helping people build confidence to take risks that make life worth living. She specializes in working with how the nervous system and unconscious mind influence our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You just thought you were running your life. It's your unconsciousness that's doing that for you. Originally from Alabama, Krissy lived in Japan twice and built a career as a university study abroad advisor before becoming a life coach. She now lives in Arcata with her husband and senior kitty. I wonder what the characteristics of a senior kitty are. Mine was less active. More information at KrissyLoveman.com, and Krissy, it's all yours. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
all
you.
for coming.
Thank you, Jane, for the introduction. And give me one moment, folks, while I share my screen. Okay, I think we're good to go. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. This is my first talk with OLLI, and it's funny, my first,
Your,
yes?
your slide isn't all the way open for some reason.
Oh,
There you
There
interesting.
go.
you go.
Now
Okay,
you
is
got
Perfect.
that
it.
better? Thank you for
Yep.
letting me
Now we
know.
have the whole thing.
It's funny, I was just remembering that the first time I was exposed to OLLI, it was at a different university in Florida. I used to be a study abroad advisor, as Jane mentioned, and I was working with a group of OLLI that was traveling to China. And I was helping them like apply to the program and get their visa. And it was a really fun, rewarding experience for me to work with that population. So it's great to be back with a different group, OLLI here in Arcata. So, welcome to my workshop. It's called Look But Don't Stare: How to Stay Tethered in Uncertain Times. This workshop offers some strategies and philosophies to help you help yourself during times of uncertainty and difficulty. And what I'm offering today, I 100% use for myself because I need guardrails during hard times too, just like anyone else. And there is so much I have to say about this topic, especially because I've had a lot of uncertainty in my own life for the past 5 years following an injury that I had. So I could kind of talk about this for a long time, but I'm giving you what I can today, given the time that we have together. I want to say that I've designed this class to make it adaptable. So my hope is that, whether you're facing uncertainty in your life that is personal, that is related to your career, to your relationships, or what I'm going to be referring to throughout the presentation as world stress, and we all know what that means, whatever is keeping you up at night. My hope is that everyone can apply these ideas and these teachings, however they best fit you and your unique situation and what you're going through right now. I do have a couple reflection exercises later on, so just have a pen and paper handy so that when we get to those, you can do a little bit of journaling. And at any point, if you have questions, you can just put them in the chat. I usually wait until the very end to answer questions to make sure I have time to get through all my slides first. But if you go ahead and put your question in the chat, I will definitely take a look at it at the very end. Okay. All right, then. So let's jump right in. So we begin with one of my favorite teachers because I do consider him one to be for me, and that's RuPaul. Looking chic here as always. So the truth is that RuPaul inspired the name of this workshop, Look But Don't Stare. And I heard him say this a few years ago on his social media. Okay, so this is what he had said. With all the darkness that's going on in the world, you can look at the darkness. Don't stare. It will make you crazy. It will make you cross-eyed. It'll make you what it is. I don't know about you, but I really feel in my body exactly what he is talking about here. And for me, when I read this and I hear this, it makes me, it kind of makes everything feel a little clearer for me. Like what's in front of me snaps back into focus, and I kind of can become more aware of how I'm engaging with whatever is happening around me and to me in my life. I can ask myself, Am I engaging in this in a way that is healthy or that is useful or meaningful? Because it's very easy to get sucked into the darkness, right? But you can always kind of take a step back and really take a look at it, whatever it is, and find a way to really return to yourself to better cope with whatever is happening in your life. So, I want to ask you, what do you find yourself staring at these days? It could be so much, right? So here are some things that some of you might relate to. Perhaps I know a lot of folks here are retired, but whatever you're engaging in, whether you're employed or not, maybe it's taking a toll on your health. Maybe it's your relationships, maybe you're grieving the loss of someone. Maybe your relationships are changing and you're not ready for it. Maybe you're dealing with some health stuff, chronic illnesses, disabilities. I have health stuff that I've been dealing with. Perhaps you're feeling lost about your direction in life right now. Maybe you're at the metaphorical crossroads and there's an element of uncertainty there that is unsettling to you. Not to mention, every day it's a new catastrophe on the news. The economy feels shaky with AI. There's this abuse of power happening in the United States right now. Corporate greed is at an all-time high. And meanwhile, everyday people like you and me, we are just, trying to make ends meet and on and on and on. So just, yeah, as you go through this workshop, just think about that uncertainty or difficulty in your life that resonates with you and keep that in mind as we go along. But I do want to dig into RuPaul's words a little more, and I'm going to really give you my interpretation and philosophy on how and what it really means to look but not stare at something. So here's what it really means to me. So this is coming from my life coach point of view, of course. So to look is to accept what is happening as a very first step. So you're accepting the uncertainty. You're accepting that there is difficulty in your life. You're accepting even that there is some darkness happening on some level. So you can call it what it is, whether it's something that's happening to you personally or something that's happening out in the world. You can look at it and say, yes, it's there. We don't need to pretend that this isn't happening. Yes, you might have illness or your relationships in your life feel shaky or it feels like democracy is crumbling. But to look is to accept what is happening right in front of you and just to take a moment to just accept what you see. And you might notice you have a tendency to resist what is happening. Well, a lot of times we kind of go that route. But just take a moment to really look and accept. And you really do have to breathe through this part because integrating new realities in your life doesn't always come easily. You can take a look and you breathe and you say, okay, this is happening. At the same time, you don't stare at it. You don't get sucked into it. Whether a door in your life has just closed that you were not expecting, and you're now looking at a different kind of future, or you've lost a loved one and you're grieving, or your social media feed has gotten really nasty and you're getting pulled into it, don't stare at it. And this often requires you to really set boundaries with yourself, especially if it's something related to world stress, because a lot of what's happening out there is designed to distract you and make you addicted to your screen, okay? Yeah, so just breathe through it. You can only look at something without staring at it if you practice staying tethered. And my workshop is really about learning how to stay tethered. To keep yourself from staring at the problem, you have to stay tethered to something else. And your tether can be lots of things. For instance, it could be what helps you stay curious or stay motivated to kind of keep going in your life. It could be your community. It could be what gives you hope. And hope is not just like some fleeting feeling that sometimes graces us with its presence. Hope is actually a choice, but I have more to say on that later. So there's a difference between accepting what is true right now versus giving up and getting lost in a sense of hopelessness. So I want to point out that it's really important to know the difference between acceptance and then giving up. Surrendering to the truth can be liberating, right? But it doesn't mean you need to be cynical or hopeless. I could say so much more on that, but I'm going to leave it as it is. So looking but not staring and staying tethered is very possible. And it's very much, about partnering with your own nervous system. So I have a lot to say about that. So a lot of what's happening around us, again, personally or out in the world, it's causing us to be under a lot of stress that we're not used to. And the nervous system under stress tends to behave a certain way in order to protect you. But our nervous systems can become overprotective very easily. And if we don't know how to come out of that protective shell, we can get stuck there very easily. We can get stuck in that stare that sucks us in, right? So this is true for patterns of protection that we learn very early in life that we carry with us into adulthood, as well as new patterns of protection that we're all kind of experiencing now, right? So the patterns that we're familiar with are things like, well, your usual fight, flight responses under stress at work and your relationships and so on. This is the way that you avoid things, the way that you maybe go into overdrive, and overextend yourself, the way that you might lash out when you're feeling you're in a fight flight response, all that stuff. Now, on top of that, we're also dealing with all these new realities, right, that we've never dealt with before, at least, not in this lifetime. So our nervous systems, they don't really know how to cope with AI disrupting the workforce and the economy, or the growing divide between regular people and the billionaire class. And many of us grew up in a more or less functioning democracy, and we don't really know the first thing about living under less democratic systems. We can be honest about that. But no matter what is causing us stress, it's important to become more aware of the signs that our nervous system is going into this overprotection mode. And I think that we all need this now more than ever, given what we're going through. So what do those signs look like? A nervous system under stress. So under stress, a nervous system tends to brace and tighten up. It's kind of like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, or you're waiting to get punched in the gut. So you feel this one really in the musculature of your body. You might feel your jaw tightening up. You might feel your shoulders kind of creeping up towards your ears. You might feel something in the pit of your stomach. It can show up in different places, but these are the common ones. It's basically your body tightening up in a sense. And it happens unconsciously. You're not, consciously doing it. It's just what your nervous system does. Under stress, a nervous system also tends to narrow in perspective. Okay, so your thoughts become limited in how you see and interpret what is happening around you. So this affects the stories that frame your worldview. It affects the stories where you might fall into something that feels like hopelessness or defensiveness, and so on. So a nervous system under stress literally affects your narrative and how you make meaning out of your experiences. A nervous system under stress tends to also go into shutdown mode. So you might freeze up and kind of go blank. You might start to feel kind of fuzzy or unclear. You might even feel kind of unresponsive and like unable to engage with what's happening around you or engage with other people. You might collapse into despair. You might slip into a depressive state. You might just lack motivation to really do anything, motivation that you normally would have. And you might find yourself saying things, well, what's the point? What's the point, right? So this is a nervous system going into sort of shutdown mode. Or you might even crash out, to use the current lingo that young folks use now. So you blow up and it isn't planned and you sort of lose your temper. These are a few, but certainly not all signs the nervous system is under stress, but they're the ones I wanted to highlight. And among all of these reactions, you might find yourself staring at and getting sucked into the unknown, the hardship, the difficulty, the uncertainty, whatever it is that you're going through right now. These are the signs of a dysregulated nervous system, a nervous system under stress. Okay. Now, this happens to all of us. You can't entirely avoid this. So, the important strategy here to begin with is learn to recognize when you're becoming dysregulated. Know the signs. Know when it's time to kind of intervene and step in on your own behalf and be like, okay, I'm dysregulated. Let me, take a step back and tend to myself. This is just the very first step, recognizing those signs. Hopefully, all of you are somewhat aware of this. I could do a whole workshop on this, but we're going to just kind of move along here. And I want to be clear here for a moment, right? We're talking about a nervous system under stress, having a lot of difficult emotions, difficult narratives, at a very difficult time. The answer to all this is not toxic positivity. So we all see the corruption and the unfairness that's happening out there right now, and we're rightfully angry and upset about it. Just speaking in terms of world stress. The same goes for your personal life. If someone has broken your trust, or if you have to live with chronic illness every day, you are rightfully frustrated or scared or so on. Okay. These emotions have an intelligence in them. They're telling you something, right? But getting lost in our emotions is different than being with them while staying tethered. So there's a little bit of a distinction there. So getting lost in our emotions, getting dysregulated, is different than being with our difficult emotions and staying tethered. Okay. So you can still have room for sadness and grief and anger and so on while staying connected to yourself, or connected to something that keeps you more or less regulated, in a place of regulation. So the key is to find ways to stay open and regulated in your nervous system. So an open, regulated nervous system is able to act from a place of power and hope and choice, despite uncertainties and pain and loss and harm. Okay. And choice is a big one here. To be able to have choice. It might be the choice for you to just be able to take a step back and say, I need a timeout right now, or I need to reach out to my community for support, or, I can find a way forward. The effort is still worth it. You're able to find that choice. So being regulated in your nervous system is not just about the difference between being calm versus upset, happy versus sad, positive versus negative. It's not like you have to choose one or the other. We're all going through a lot right now, right? It's about holding all these parts of yourself and staying connected and tethered at the same time. So when you're getting triggered and feeling dysregulated, it can be a really intense experience, when there's immense uncertainty in your life. So I want to mention another very important truth that's very exciting, that gives us all hope. How often you get dysregulated, how intensely or the degree to which you become dysregulated under stress, right? And how long you stay there is something you can take better control of. So you can be better at returning to yourself, returning to regulation. You can be better at staying regulated and open, even when you're under immense stress. You don't have to get as dysregulated as often or as intensely or for as long as you might be used to at this point. And we're all at a different place in our nervous system. Some of us have a lot of nervous system work to do. Some of us have already done a lot of nervous system work. So again, take this wherever it applies to you. But we could all be more skillful at being more in tune with where we're at in our nervous system when we're feeling under stress, and kind of regulating ourselves again. So the great thing about the nervous system is that it's very resilient. It's always learning, it's always adapting, and your nervous system is designed to find its way back to regulation and openness. Your nervous system wants to come back into connection. Okay. So whether you are going through a divorce, or you have new responsibilities on your plate and you're afraid you're going to mess it up and you're scared, or you're just trying to adjust to this ever-changing world, right? You can be better at getting more regulated in your body and coming back to all the resources you have access to. So that's what I want to talk about here. When you practice staying open and regulated and connected, your nervous system stops bracing and holding and protecting and narrowing as much. So you can be in this difficult world without losing yourself. So let's talk about what an open nervous system looks like. This is where you have the most access to your inner resourcefulness. So when your nervous system is open and you feel tethered, you can stay curious, which is to say, you can ask really useful questions and find really good answers from a place of possibility. What's my next move? What can I do differently here? How can I just make it through today or the next 5 minutes? How do I want to show up right now in my job or in my relationship or at home or whatever? So an open nervous system can return to that level of curiosity, even when the going gets tough. When your nervous system is open and regulated, you also are able to feel inspired and driven, determined. You can find a purpose of some kind. You can create your own reasons to keep going, no matter what's going on out there. You know, if a door closes, you're able to go find another door. Maybe it's not right away, but you can imagine the possibility, and that keeps you going. Okay? So an open nervous system can really look ahead in this way. When your nervous system is open and regulated, you can also access compassion more easily. You can empathize and understand at a deeper level with yourself and with other people. And we could all use more of that, including myself. You know when it's time to rest. If you have an open, regulated nervous system, you can, listen to your capacity, know when it's time to take a pause. You give yourself permission to take breaks, to set boundaries, to say, not today, or to choose your battles. So rest helps you stay in the long game because many things that we are dealing with in our life that feel uncertain and difficult, it's a long game. Okay. You may not see the fruits of your labor or the light on the at the end of the tunnel anytime soon, but it's still worth working towards, inching towards that, staying curious, right? Leaning into possibility, staying inspired, staying driven. Okay, but in order to do all this, you have to know when it's time to take breaks and rest. In an open nervous system also knows how to be creative. And what we all really need right now is creativity to address new problems in a very complicated world. So these qualities are what a resourceful nervous system looks like. This is what you have access to when you're feeling open and regulated, when you're tethered. Okay, and this is where we want to be as often as possible. So I want to talk about a couple different ways to get tethered, to stay tethered, so you can look and act and move forward without getting lost in a stare, right? That's what we want to avoid is the staring into the difficulty and staring into that darkness. Because we want you to access the curiosity and the possibility and all the good stuff to make yourself more resilient. So when I work with people who are struggling to move forward in a meaningful way, because they're dealing with uncertainty or difficulty of some kind, so often people feel overwhelmed and stuck. Like they use these words a lot. I feel overwhelmed, I feel stuck. Or they feel lost and confused. Okay. So for example, they're feeling powerless about a situation. It could be your health, it could be what's going on out there in the news, dealing with a difficult person in your life you have to deal with every day. Or maybe you're working towards a goal, but it feels really daunting. It's a really big lift and you don't even know where to start. You might doubt your ability to handle what's in front of you. And in this stuckness or feeling lost, We tend to get caught up in that stare, right? We get sucked up into it. So, what can you do to get tethered and regain your access to your inner resourcefulness? When you feel powerless, it becomes very important for you to empower yourself with taking some kind of meaningful or useful action that is within your capacity, where you are both willing and able to take the next right step. And let me be clear, you don't need to move mountains, you don't need to single-handedly save the world. What any of us is capable of on any given day is really just one small drop in the bucket. But that's all you need to aim for every day. Each little drop in the bucket matters. So please know that your nervous system works best when it comes to taking action, when you just take one really small step, one at a time. Okay, your nervous system likes simplicity. So small, specific, actionable. Okay, this is true for virtually anything. Okay, whether you need to set boundaries that protect you from getting overly dysregulated, boundaries with your social media, boundaries with difficult people in your life, whatever. Whether you need to incorporate, you're really upset by what's happening out there and you want to get involved, maybe do something, get involved with some activism to contribute to something greater. No matter how daunting or overwhelming it feels right now, standing at the bottom of this mountain that you're trying to climb, I want to say that all you need to do is identify one small step to focus on one at a time. And it should be small enough you can actually do it right now. If it feels too big, just cut it in half. Okay. It should be specific. If you want to take control of your health, for example, decide what you will do specifically to achieve that goal starting today or tomorrow. Like something really small, like getting up 10 minutes early to get a little bit of exercise. Not launching yourself into some high intensity workout class that you are not ready for, right? That's a big lift. I'm saying take the small lift. If it's small and it's specific, you can get started right away. So if you think about the difficulty or uncertainty in your life that you're facing and how you want to better stay tethered for yourself, to stay open, to really have access again to possibility, right? And staying curious about what you can do, even though it's really hard. Like, what's something that would be useful? Just take meaningful action that's small and specific, and taking what I'm going to call non-actions. This counts also, and it counts often. Resting, taking breaks, slowing down, listening to your body, doing nothing. These all count as meaningful next right steps. So when it comes to your next right step, rest is often the answer, especially if you are a go, go, go type, which is me, and I've had to learn this the hard way. Consider that your next right step might be taking a step back. Okay. And I've had to learn this the hard way, overextending myself to the point of injury that put me on disability for 9 months and left me with chronic pain that I still live with today. Don't let yourself reach that point. Know when to rest. Also important, when I tell people to take action, let's talk about what that doesn't mean. Don't worry about how you're going to manage step 10 or 15 next week or 6 months from now. Just focus on right now. What's your next step? You can give yourself permission to do that. You don't have to have all the answers. No one does. No one has all the answers. In fact, it might feel really good for you to say that out loud right now. I don't have the answers, and that's okay. So this is a dance where you don't know what your next partner's step is going to be. All you can focus on is what your next step is going to be. Momentum is the wonderful side effect of taking meaningful or useful action. When you get up and go do the thing, no matter how small, and you kind of just keep showing up to do the next thing, you build momentum and that re-energizes you. It's like a self-energizing system. Okay. And it's very sustainable. When you try to go all in or you hold yourself to unattainable standards, that is unsustainable. So when in doubt, keep it simple. Your nervous system will thank you for it. And you'll find it much easier to just stay regulated this way. So here's your first reflection question on so you can really kind of get concrete on how to apply this, what we've been talking about so far. So there's two parts to this exercise. First, what's an area of your life where you want to take a meaningful or useful next step? Okay, think about an area of life that represents that uncertainty or that difficulty that you're moving through. What is that area of your life? And secondly, what kind of action step do you want to take? So, not what step do you actually want to take, but what kind. So, there should be a qualifier here. Do you want your next step to be slowed down? Do you want it to feel healthy? Do you want it to feel creative? Do you want it to feel more productive? Like, what kind of next step do you want it to be? You get to choose here. Okay. So again, you don't need to decide what your next step is yet. We're going to get to that in a minute. For now, just decide what's this area of my life where I want to take a next step that's meaningful in some way, and what kind of next step do I need it to be? What would feel really good? Okay. What do you want it to be? Not what it should be, what it must be, or anything like that. Let this be something that feels good to you. And just take about 3 minutes to write down your answer, and I will just go on mute here while you do that. Okay, just a few more seconds here and then we'll move along. Okay, so when it comes to taking your next small step, your next right step, there's another piece to the puzzle besides just figuring out what is it? What is it that you're going to do, right? It's how you feel while you're doing it. Okay. And so this is why I've asked you, well, what kind of next step do you want it to be? So we don't often stop to think about how we want to feel when we do the next right thing or when we're taking an important action. We just kind of feel what we're feeling, whatever comes up. But what if you could actually choose? Because you can, and it actually matters a lot. It matters a lot, a lot. If a feeling could be an inner resource, just like the examples of an open nervous system we talked about earlier, curiosity and possibility and motivation and all that. Well, what resource do you want to pull from? Do you like the feeling of when you're feeling creative, or when you're feeling a lot of compassion, or when you're just feeling really driven and inspired? Anything like that. How do you want to feel when you take your next right step? Do you like the idea that you could be curious? If you're someone, who feels like you have to have all the answers all the time and you feel pressure to get everything right, you might benefit from embodying curiosity, which is to say, how does it feel when you're curious? Like when you get into that headspace, what does it feel like? What do you notice? Or maybe you want to feel inspired or excited about your next step. Those are great resources to go with. And maybe that's what you need right now. So when you feel excited, what's that like? What do you notice in your body? Okay. So, I actually want you to try this on right now, you know, and when you do this, do you notice like, oh, I kind of sit a little taller. I can feel myself kind of leaning forward because I feel like I'm ready and eager to get started. So, in thinking about the kind of next step you want to take, what I'm really asking is, how do you want to feel? And when you feel that way, what's it like? And we're going to really walk through this in a minute, but I do want to mention one little thing, because I do this exercise a lot. And the answer to how you want to feel is not what you don't want to feel. So, a lot of people kind of gravitate towards this first because they're used to the feeling of being overwhelmed or something like that. And they say, well, I don't want to feel overwhelmed. Okay, if you weren't overwhelmed, how would you feel instead? How would you want to feel instead? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So you want to choose kind of a energetic, uplifting feeling and emotion. And this is not some silly little pointless exercise because different feelings carry different biochemistry that alters the state of your nervous system, changing your story, your narrative, opening you up or closing you down, right? So, do you want to feel free as you take your next right step? Do you want to feel light? Do you want to feel motivated? Do you want to feel hopeful? So, try that on right now. And I just want you to embody a feeling that feels useful to you, something that's got an uplifting energy to it. And if you have trouble getting there, think of anything that makes you feel that way. Hanging out with your best friend, going for a drive and listening to music. What makes you feel that way? Imagine doing that and try to get into that headspace right now, okay? And really lean into that feeling, right? And take this moment too to kind of readjust yourself in your chair and sit up and pull your shoulders back. Taking a nice big inhale. You can move around if you need to. And think about that area of your life where you want to take that meaningful next right step. And imagine being in this headspace. That feels really good. And from here, you just ask yourself, okay, now what's my next smallest step? And then just listen for an answer. And imagine yourself taking that next small step. Picture yourself doing it right now. Imagine it was easy. a little easier, a little bit lighter, a little bit freer, a little more doable. And just notice how it feels to imagine that from this headspace. So focusing on your next smallest step and really embodying how you want to feel to get it done. This is a proven way to take something big and overwhelming or scary and turn it into something that's small and actionable that you can actually take charge on. We're going to talk about hope for a moment because this one deserves its own slide. Hope is a great resource, an inner resource, something you can access when you're feeling connected and open and really tethered. Okay. But I think we need a little bit of a revamped understanding of what hope is, because hope is one of the greatest tethers. You know, to be able to look with clear eyes at difficulty, uncertainty, pain, whatever you're going through in your life, without glazing over into that stare that you get sucked into, right? Hope is not this fleeting feeling, it is a choice. It's not out there, you know, it's not something you wait for. It's a choice. You have to choose it, and you have to choose it over and over. Sometimes you have to accept a really hard situation in your life, like a medical diagnosis, a change in your finances, whatever's going on in the news, right? That doesn't mean that hope doesn't still have a role for you. You can accept something really difficult in your life and still have room for hope, because you can choose what to hope for, right? So this part you get to decide. Maybe you have to give up having the um healthy, able-bodied future that you were anticipating. I have had to give that up in some sense because of the injuries that I had and the chronic pain I live with. There are a lot of things that I don't anticipate ever getting to experience again. So then what is the target of my hope if I have to accept something like that? Maybe you hope that you can remain strong and rediscover what's important to you in your life during these difficult times. Hardship often reminds us to pay attention to what's most important. Hope is fuel. Hope will light a fire under your ass. It will help you commit to the long game that maybe you're invested in. It will help you follow through in your actions. It's energetic. Hope makes your efforts, no matter how small they are, feel like they actually matter. And hope is very courageous. Don't tell me it's soft or easy, because you have to really reach for it. You have to fight for it. And a lot of people are quick to give up because it feels easier to give up. And on that note, let me say that hopelessness is a distraction. It's easy to fall into a place of hopelessness, but that is a distraction and nothing more. Hopelessness is how you get lost in the stare, getting sucked into that darkness. So, another reflection, going back to this area of your life where you want to take meaningful action, right? Or it could be a different area of your life. It doesn't matter. Whatever feels appropriate here. I want you to ask yourself, why do I choose hope? And what opens up for me when I do that? Okay. Not knowing what the future holds, why choose hope? Why bother? You have to decide this for yourself. I can't tell you why you should. It's really up to you. So I encourage you to take a couple minutes to think about this and write down your answer. And then we will wrap up for today. Okay. So I hope you found some solid reasons to keep moving forward, fighting the good fight in your life. I know we're all going through a lot right now. So please thank yourself for being here today. This is my hope is to help you lay a foundation so you can do, the inner work that will really sustain you through whatever you're going through. I'm going to take questions here in a minute, but I do want to mention that if you want to follow me, please consider subscribing to my Substack. This is my newsletter. Everything is free to read. When you subscribe, you get access to some of my free tools, and you will be the first to know about special offers to work with me privately in my coaching. And I also do other workshops, so you'll be the first to know about those as well. And again, I thank you for being here. I'm going to take some time here to answer any questions you have. I'm going to be looking in the chat here. I think I did see one so far, and it's not too late to put your questions in the chat. So, a very good question here. If your response to, I think, making your next right step is all of the above, how to make choices, how to prioritize when they're all important. Yeah, I understand that predicament, and that is one that is common. And with this one, I'll say, without knowing details of your situation, a lot of people do worry about choosing the wrong thing to focus on. Like, well, what if that's more important? I should be doing that, and I'm doing this instead. This is kind of just a distraction that sidetracks all of us very easily. So don't worry about prioritizing if that's not clear to you right now. Literally just choose anything and just jump in there and get started. And you can always change course. You can change your mind if you realize, well, actually, I'm going to set this aside and go do this other thing because I realize that's more important. Fine, you can do that. The main thing is like, just get started. It's so easy to get distracted. Our brains are great at going into overdrive and coming up with all these objections and questions that really keep us from just taking any step forward. Um, which again includes rest and taking breaks and all of that good stuff too. Thank you for that question. That's a good one. Anyone else?
Yeah, thank you for this today, Krissy. I really appreciate the topic. I was just wondering if how do I even ask the question properly? So there's like post grief, there's like a general malaise that
Yeah,
happens some days, lack of motivation for work. It's a cluster. It's not
yeah,
really one thing. So
yeah.
I was wondering more from hygiene, like if you could just talk to us about like every day, maybe ask yourself these questions or how to stay tethered when it's not concrete, when it's a cluster. That's really the most simple way of asking. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, it's a good question. We try to answer this. So it is often the case that when we're dysregulated, we're not just feeling this thing or that thing. It kind of all gets muddled. Um, and that's totally a reality that we all deal with. And when we're trying to just stay tethered, even if it's just something really small that gives you a moment of peace or joy or hope during a very difficult time, such as grief. Your nervous system, our nervous systems are really flexible and flexible in the way that it learns and kind of restructures and rewires itself with practice. So I say that to say anything you can do to bring yourself into a more peaceful place is going to be helpful in a cumulative way. So if you're making a regular practice of doing something that again just makes you feel a little bit lighter, right? A little bit more like, okay, yeah, I can see the clouds parting a little bit, and you just commit to it, whatever it is. That is going to be helpful over the long run. You may not feel it in the short term, Every day feels like a slog. But over the long term, it matters. So, really just committing yourself to doing something for yourself every day. I don't have any like go-to questions you might want to ask yourself, but that in itself is a great idea. I would encourage you to think of questions that you feel you would respond well to, like, have I checked in with someone today? Did I reach out to someone to say hello? Did I step outside today and get some sun? You know, anything you can do to help you to remember to do all the things, I definitely encourage. I have a terrible working memory. I write everything down. I hope that is helpful to Marla. Yes. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else? Thanks for sticking around, y'all. Thanks, Dr. P. Well, I'm going to stick around in case anybody wants to ask more questions, but you're welcome to sign off if you got what you needed to today. Thanks again for being here. I hope to see you in my Substack.
Thank you again.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Krissy.
Thank you. Thank you for the tech support.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.